Hello, I am Stamford Chidge, and this is the Chelsea Football FanCast. And we've had a good old natter about the City game and Frank Lampard and Liverpool and Costa and all of that malarkey. And this is kind of a really good way of pulling all that together. And I think a far more interesting chat than doing the fannies. I think we agree with this.
Yeah, this is proper football.
It is proper football. And I mean, I know that for the last 7 years it's been my mantra to kick football out of football. And I've been very successful in doing that with the Chelsea Fancast, but I'm slowly, at my old age, beginning to learn the error of my ways and realise that actually you might actually like a bit of football chat. So there we go. And this is my last show for a while. I'll tell you more about that in the next part, but enjoy it while it lasts, because you'll have Jonathan soon. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, on that very point, it would have been very remiss of me, in view of what's happened in the last week, Dan, and also because you're here, not to talk about the media blackout. Now, those of you who follow me on Twitter will know that I put a blog up on IB Times today, which goes into the same thing, really, about whether there's a media witch hunt against Chelsea, blah, 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 blah. I'll tell you, for those of you who have not read that yet, I'll tell you what I think in a minute. But first of all, I'm going to pick on Dan. Sorry, first of all, I'm going to ask Dan what he thinks. I mean, the bottom line is, most of the Chelsea supporters that I speak to, A, think there is an agenda, but more to the point, they think that Jose's media blackout is hilarious. Is it funny or is it petty, Dan? As somebody who's on the receiving end of it.
It's both, really. I mean, you can see why he's doing it. It's probably, I mean, less than being funny. It's obviously done for a reason. You know, like almost everything Mourinho does. It's done to try and it's delivering tough love directly to the people he thinks are guilty. It is petty because at the same time it stops him from getting his message out. You know, why would you stop talking?
I think, au contraire, I think it's absolutely getting his message out.
Well, I see exactly what you're saying, but of course,
I think the message he's giving is that.
Can you say that on the radio?
No, but I didn't. For those of you listening in black and white, the finger.
The issue, of course, is that it doesn't. It means that there's empty space in the paper. The back page doesn't go away.
No, it doesn't, because they go and make it up anyway. Yeah. Look at Matt Dickinson and Ian Herbert today.
Well, this is what you get as a result. That's my point. Yeah. I think that there was something also brought up today by Oliver Kay, where basically, what did Chelsea need in the transfer window? And I think the answer was that they needed
good manners, apparently.
Something like that. Yeah.
Good breeding, like you get at the Times, not.
I'm not sure it's the greatest media relations, because I'm a PR as well as a journalist, and with my PR hat on, I'm saying I don't think it's great media relations. With a politician's hat on, you can see why he's doing it, because you know this is how he gets what he wants.
Okay, but before I come back with a robust, what was that bloke who had the funny dicky bow tie when we were young?
Robin Day.
Robin Day. Dan Silver. Genius. Yeah. Before I get all Robin Day with Dan about it, he gets all John Knott and throws his mic away. I'm going to ask the boys, who I think a little, I mean, because, you know, you and I are a part of the same game, but slightly different positions in many respects. These two aren't, and I'd be absolutely curious to find out what they think before I come back with both barrels.
I mean, I think personally, when you have the sort of stuff that's been written today that's fairly baseless rubbish, it kind of perpetuates, you know, the whole Mourinho, why he's backing out. He looks and thinks, well, I'm saying this, it's been, you know, comes out as something completely different. Nobody else seems to be getting any criticism for their, you know, players' issues. But yet, look, we're not the cleanest club, but look at Arsenal, Man U, Van Gaal's getting a easy ride, 170 million. No one's criticising him.
Do you think he's right to basically put a blackout and tell him to jog on, which is what I think he's doing?
Anything Jose would do. I mean, you know, you want to take my wife out, I'd let him, you know. Yeah, to be quite frank.
There you go, Jose, if you're watching, and I know you watch this every week, Dan has just offered, and she's lovely, by the way, Dan's wife is absolutely delightful. Dan's offered an evening out with your wife because he loves you so much.
I should explain 4-3-3 with swords and pepper pots. I just think anything Jose does, as Dan said, he does for a reason. He's got his agenda. The media love Jose, and I think deep down he probably loves them as well. I've seen various sort of sound bites when he goes, I wouldn't swap you for anybody.
There is a very different, I mean, you know, before I get Andy in, I mean, you know, the relationship that Ferguson had with most of the media was caustic. I don't think he liked them, and I don't think they really liked him. I think there's a lot of what's for show with Jose, but I think he has got some proper, decent relationships with a lot of the press, that they like him and he actually likes them. And Dan has seen that side of it, and you would I suspect back that up.
I agree,
Andy, what do you think of what's going on? Do you think it's good or what?
I'm not married, so sorry, Jose, nothing to offer. No comment. No, I mean he's backed himself into a corner and say it's us versus them. If he does do one on Friday for Saturday, there'll be a love in. They'll say his first words will be, "Have you missed me?"
Yeah.
You know what's coming, and the answer will probably be 9 out of 10 would have said, "Yes, we have missed you." And the first line of question would be, "Why have you blacked out and why have you not spoken to us?"
But you don't care as a
I
supporter.
don't care.
It doesn't bother you, right?
Whatever he does, walk on water, I'll hold his hand.
You don't care.
I really don't care.
Trust in Jose.
Yeah, 100%.
I remember seeing one of the journalists saying that Jose is show business. He sells
Box
papers,
office.
box office. That's box office. And
This man says it every week.
Yeah. He's articulate.
That's why I remembered it.
Yeah, he's articulate. He's bright. He plays the media so well. He
plays him like a fiddle, mate.
Yeah,
He does.
No.
All right. I mean, my take on this is that he's doing this absolutely for one reason and one reason alone, and that he is building up a siege mentality. Yeah. Fortress Chelsea. He's drawn up the Stamford drawbridge. See what I've done there. And he's repelling all borders. And he's building a mentality in the team that it's absolutely us against the world. Everybody hates us, and we have to go and show them. And that's exactly why he's doing it. So I think basically the whole Blackout is a ruse. I don't think there's any kind of... I don't think for 1 minute he believes that there's a real agenda or campaign against Chelsea. He's just spotted that as, oh, hello, thank you very much. They have played right into his hands. That was the tenet of my article. Before you come, just park that thought for a minute, because my other point is this. Because, and I said this in the IB Times blog today, everybody has an agenda. Newspapers, TV, radio, it's not truth. It is opinion and interpretation, but it is not fact. It is not truth. Even the BBC News is opinion. It's not fact.
And this is basically what I was writing in my piece that you were talking about.
Segue
Thank you very
in there,
much.
Dan.
Cheers.
But Dan and Chidge, we write stuff for show. Are we going to name this?
That basically the tenet of the article was that the Premier League wants to be the biggest league in the world, that football now is no longer really about football. Football is sadly about show business. And the Premier League is basically pitching to be Hollywood. And all of this...
Bollywood, more like.
Well, all of this is a tail-chasing thing.
Means.
A tail-chasing thing to try and get more and more coverage, good or bad. It's just about making this more and more
Actually
bloated.
Good, Dan. It's PR gloss of the worst type, because they only want to show what they can control, and they only want to show the kind of like flake advert style of it, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Not that bit of it, Dan. It's everything has to look nice and be wonderful and idealised.
Yeah.
You've segued straight into the story I wanted to tell you, which I've been promising you all week after. I mean, by the way, Dan did write an absolutely superb piece on Sports Lobster, which goes into what are the real reasons behind the FA's ban of Costa and why they collude, which I believe they do, with Sky. Because Sky are the most powerful people in the media in football. They effectively pay for the game in this country, as Martin actually rightly said. Yeah. So what Sky want goes. Apart from, Dan, if you're making a television programme. Now, I made a television programme a number of years ago for ESPN Classic, believe it or not. And it was called what was it called? So brilliant, I can't even remember what it was called. But the 50 greatest sportsmen we love to love and the 50 greatest sportsmen we love to hate. So in the hate category, I had lots of great people like, God blimey, Robbie Savage, Ben Thatcher for the elbow, the fight between Lee Bowyer and Kieran Dyer. I had all of these great moments, which we all love as supporters. I was not allowed to get any footage from it at all. I got a letter from the... I hope you're bloody listening. I got a letter from the FA saying that I was not allowed to put anything that might be detrimental to or show the FA or football in a bad light. I was verboten for putting it in. In spite of the fact these moments had happened, we had seen them on TV on the whole. But no, it's like it was like something out of Stalinism.
As you know, the Cantona Kung Fu kick never happened because
No,
you're never
airbrushed out of history.
never allowed to see the footage of it, and nobody will ever see it
No.
again.
I had that in there. I wasn't allowed to show that.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Ben Thatcher elbow, Pedro Mendes lying on the floor half dead, not allowed to show any of that. None of the Lee Bowyer, Kieran Dyer. So many incidences like that I was desperate to want to have. I wasn't allowed to have the footage or show it, and had a letter from the FA banning me from doing so. So, you know, that's what we're dealing with here, people. So when we talk about agendas, there is clearly an agenda. Yeah. What I would argue is I don't actually really believe that there is an agenda against Chelsea. I just believe that for example, when you write a newspaper piece or you make a television programme, it's impossible to be neutral and impartial if you have an allegiance. If you really love football and you have a team, it's impossible for that to be irrelevant and to be parked. I really do genuinely believe that. Well, and hang on a minute. If you don't have a team, then you are still going to be influenced by the media that you consume. And when you see in the media all the time, like the day after the Liverpool game, every single back page had something derogatory about Diego Costa, you will be influenced by that because it's inhuman not to be. Well, we're not bloody, Spock. You will be influenced by that, and then that will help to set your agenda.
Every front page in the land has some sort of political bent, so it seems ridiculous to suggest it hasn't made its way to the back pages
Absolutely.
as well. Can I just address something on the Mourinho shutout?
Absolutely.
The blackout, if you like. One of the most frequent things I say is, well, we've got a song about it at Chelsea, haven't we? F them all, basically.
Yeah.
Why on earth should we speak to the press? And all I'm saying to that is, here's a reminder, we took that line when Ken Bates was in charge of this club, and it didn't really work because Chelsea became the most hated club of almost every paper in the country.
Not recovered from that, arguably.
That's a very good point. I mean, I was going to actually, do you know what, to put that around the other way, Dan, and I think that's an excellent point. I was going to actually ask you, what do you think the impact of this will be? Will it be good or bad? But actually, just to track back a sec, I think that's a very interesting point about Bates and the negative tone he set with the press then. But we were talking about this, I think, in the last part or in the break or whatever, but, when I grew up in, Chelsea in the 80s were hated because we were seen as the chief offenders as the hooligan club. Yeah. That was the reputation that we had. And I just wonder if that, and I mean, that broke out of the back pages and that was on the front pages a lot. And I wonder if that helped to set a fairly negative agenda against Chelsea and their supporters at that time, and it's just maybe carried on from there.
I'm sure that was a major part of it, certainly. But you can't win an argument. And a lot of people will say, well, in that case, why do we even need to have the media on side? Well, it's a fact of the modern game. This is a media age. Football almost. When we play a game in the FA Cup or the League Cup and it's not on television, my timeline on Twitter is full of people going, this can't be right, this game isn't happening because it's not on the television. And so football almost exists on television now. And I know that's painful for everyone who pays their hard-earned money and goes to the game and sings their heart out, but that's the fact. And you need the media on side these days.
No, I don't know if you need them on side, Dan. I would argue.
You need to have the relationship.
You have to have a relationship.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dan, but I'll let you in a second. But for me, it's very, very simple. I see hundreds, thousands of Chelsea supporters. These boys, I watch what they write on Twitter, and they get very, very steamed up by what the media says about us and Chelsea. My only advice would be just don't take any of it seriously. It's as fairy tale ladybird book as you can get. It is not. There's also kind of a non-reality to it. It's basically some bloke's opinion, some bloke's interpretation, which will inevitably be different from yours because you're sitting on the other side of the fence to them.
Yeah. But my point is, you can't have both sides of the argument. You cannot say F them all, and at the same time, oh my God, I've picked up the paper and they're saying nasty things about us, because one follows the other.
I mean, here's the thing. I mean, I agree entirely with that, Dan. I mean, does Mourinho really have to care
about
the reaction that he gets in the media?
Yeah, he does.
Really? Why?
Yeah, well, I mean, just because it's about, there's a whole, communications within football is there's so many different strands to it, and there's so many different audiences that you speak to, and obviously the punters are the ones who are reading it. People seem to think that by sticking two fingers up to the press, you're sticking it just up to the papers. You're not. You're sticking up to the people who read the papers, who aren't now seeing what's happening. We asked earlier on, do we know is Fabregas fit for the weekend? Well, we don't, because
we'll find out on Saturday.
Well, exactly, but we don't. We want to know the answer to that, but because Mourinho isn't telling the newspapers and the newspapers aren't telling us, we don't know.
because the whole landscape of media has changed over the years with the internet, Twitter, everything else. Do Chelsea need the media? Because Chelsea will still function with or without a positive press or a negative press. Yes, we need the money from Sky. I think would be false to think otherwise.
Sky are the media.
No, but I'm talking about the media ban. I mean, if, you know, they are Chelsea in the Premier League, therefore they're contracted to be paid the money, I assume.
Well,
Chelsea
are required to fulfil certain media obligations,
Yeah.
including press conference pre-match and post-match
Yeah.
and things like that.
They offered to put Steve Holland up, apparently.
No, they didn't.
No, apparently I heard they did.
Well, I heard different.
Well, I heard. Well, you were there,
Yeah.
so I bow to the fact that you were there. But I did hear in some of the press that Steve Holland was offered up, and they weren't interested in hearing from him.
What I heard at half-time in the Man City game was that nobody, not even Steve Holland, was being put up.
I'm going off at a tangent. In America, they just had the Super Bowl, and one of the big guys there, they've all got to do a certain amount of media time, and they've got to do 3 minutes. So he went and said, right, 3 minutes, I'm not saying anything. He sat there, honoured his commitments of being there for 3 minutes, still got his fee, and that was it, because he didn't like the press he was getting. He's quite one of the big players for one of the teams. He sat there for 3 minutes
I think what they should do on Friday, sorry, Dan, but there were these great things that you can buy in the Megastore at the moment, Andy, which is like a life-size kind of cardboard cutout of Mourinho.
Yeah.
If I was Steve Atkins, and Steve, I know you watch this show, at least I hope you still do. If I was you, Steve, I would put that up next to you at the Cobham on Friday, because I, for one, would laugh my head off.
I think Jose will come back to media when he wants to. When he's got a message, he'll come back.
Oh, he'll be back this Friday. I put money on it. Yeah?
Yeah, I don't think he can bear being away from us. He loves it. He loves the attention.
It's all about his ego, isn't it? The ego of Jose.
Just to kind of a slightly, left field tangent, Dan. I mean, to compare and contrast when one's looking at the agenda, which we kind of are. As I said earlier on, Ferguson was far more horrible to the press than Mourinho has ever been. I mean, he would bully journalists. He would pick single ones out, and they would be banned from Carrington, and that was it.
Loads and loads of journalists.
Right?
How many has Mourinho banned?
None. That's my point. Ferguson's been far worse to the press, far more horrible to them, and banned them, singled out, bullied them, and yet you don't get the negative. You never got the negative press that. I mean, I don't think that Ferguson got the negative press that Mourinho seems to get. Why is that?
I think that there seemed to be an awful lot of reverence for Ferguson. I think a lot of it was allied to the fact, of course, he'd been knighted for something that other managers have done since, and I don't really understand that. And that also, just because he had this sort of figurehead position as the Don in the Premier League, he was the daddy of everyone. He'd been around in longevity. He was basically running United, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't just a team manager. He was in charge of the entire club. And Mourinho doesn't have that clout yet.
And also, Fergie got away with that speaking to BBC for 9 years. He didn't speak to BBC
I mean,
for...
this is what I'm saying. I mean, it seems to be unfair to me, Andy. Would you agree?
I mean, it could be ironic that we could get fined for doing the 2 press conferences for not saying something after being fined for everything that he does say. So it's quite ironic. Yeah. I was speaking to someone at the club, and they were saying just that they're waiting to be fined for not turning up for the 2 press conferences would be so ironic. Does it seem unfair? Jose will be back, like Dan says. He loves them, and they do love him.
Yeah.
But this is, like you say, it's just making a agenda. It's us versus them.
Yeah.
Let's build up that mentality, and we'll come out fighting.
Well, it worked on Saturday.
It did.
Look at that result. I mean, that was a great back to the wall. We shall not be beaten.
100%.
Result.
Mourinho's mouth has cost him £51,000 since he's been back at Chelsea.
It's all right. Dave will be out with a bucket soon.
In that time, he's earned something like £12.75 million from the club.
Yeah.
It's not even a case of Patrice 82, as I said in my
not
piece.
even a case of we got to go to a break off.
Okay.
But we might well pick this up in the next part. I mean, what I would say to draw a line under it is that I as a Chelsea supporter, I don't care if anybody likes us or not. I mean, I really don't. I don't support Chelsea to be liked by everybody. I really don't care. So I'm with you on this, Jose.
Right.
No one likes us. We don't care. Anyway, we will be back for our final part in a few nanoseconds, and there'll be a little bit of Chelsea Chatter stats and an answer to an email. And maybe you lot out there on Mixler, if you've got any questions for Dan and Andy, then fire away. We'll see you in a sec.